returning from an incredible trip.
Very
From
incredible.
Northwest Ohio all the way out to Yellowstone and back.
Yep.
We started on a Thursday. We had to go to Sioux City first. I got a team out there I wanted to visit for work. So that was a 12-hour drive, pretty uneventful, which is basically, it was work, right? So we had to go out there. And so that was actually convenient because that gave us a big jump start to our vacation. Great visit with the team out there. Spent the night in a great hotel in Sioux City, river out there.
Hilton Riverfront, I think.
Yeah, awesome place. Great dinner.
With Crave Restaurant.
Crave Restaurant's great. Next day, went visited the team.
I went shopping. Had to pick up a few incidentals we needed for the trip.
Absolutely.
And from Sioux City, we headed out and kept driving, and we got to Merritt Reservoir in Nebraska.
Yeah, it's what, 4 or 5 hour drive from Sioux City.
Yeah, but you know, it got us there about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. No, it was a little later than that because we had a hard time finding a campsite.
We also went through a wildlife refuge.
Oh yeah.
Valentine Wildlife Refuge, and nice, incredible grasslands. Didn't see much, just the wrong time of the year. Looked for a lot of wildlife. Beautiful place. Drove through. It's about a 15-mile drive through on stone roads.
Yeah, and so then by that point we had to find a campsite. It was starting to get a little on the late side, and Merritt's a really nice reservoir in Nebraska. It's huge and lots of campsites, but it's first come, first serve. But it was an incredible evening. What we didn't realize is the sun was going to set over the reservoir, and we had the most incredible sunset.
Saw, I believe, a beaver.
Yeah.
Incredibly huge. It was either a beaver or an otter.
I think it was a beaver.
I think it was a beaver. Next day was Saturday. We woke up in Merritt Reservoir, packed up the camper, started heading west. I'll call it northwest, up to the Badlands, which we've been to before, but it's been, I don't know, 10 years since we've been there, at least. So immediately went and got a campsite first, and it was a good thing because out of the 60 or so spots, there was only 5 left.
They are all pre-reserved at the Badlands, except for they keep a handful of sites open for first come, first serve. So we did get lucky that we were part of that first come, first serve of openings.
Spent a great evening. It was a little warm at first, but it was a very dry heat. We put the tent on. It got extremely windy for about an hour. We had to do a little bit of a modification to the tent. We tied off to the top, which we've been talking about a number of videos. You could tie off on the top. You wouldn't have to trip around the cables anyway. The guidelines. And we got a little bit of a video showing the top is pulling up, but we fixed that. Woke up the next morning to an incredible sunrise, and drove around the park. So, honey, do you trust me?
Last night you tried to make me angry, but
That's the
this
reason.
time I get you mad. Oh, don't need apologies enough for this. I'm burning for you. Can't get enough of the weekend. I wanna seize the night like I can't let go. Can't get enough of the weekend. Don't wanna ever get lost to the sun. Oh no, we can't get enough of the weekend. We wanna seize the night like we can't let go. Can't get enough of the weekend. Don't wanna ever get lost to the sun. Oh no. Sometimes I wonder how I managed to get.
Yeah, the park is just, the Badlands is an incredible park. You can see for miles, and the wildlife comes right up to the road, right on the road.
Yeah,
And
literally saw
yes.
much more wildlife than we saw at Yellowstone. But literally, you have to stop your car because of the wildlife there.
Yeah, between the rams in the road and the bison in the road, you're not getting around because they just walk right down the middle of the street at the Badlands. It's actually kind of fun, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was the Badlands. It's one of my favorite parks. I don't know what it is. It's about the Badlands.
Part of us, there's not that many people there.
Right.
After we left Badlands, we drove toward Wyoming. And we ended up stopping at Devil's Tower, which neither of us ever been to, and
I didn't even know it existed.
that's because she fell asleep in Close Encounters of the Third
I wasn't
Kind.
paying attention.
And so we ended up going there. Parking was horrible. They closed everything because of COVID, but we walked all the way around the tower, freaked out because there was how many climbers?
Oh my God, there was tons of climbers.
A lot of climbers.
A lot of climbers.
Quite frankly, I couldn't watch them because all I could think of is they're gonna fall. But there were
epic.
probably, I don't know, 6 or so people up on the tower, climbing up or down. Not for me.
And more we couldn't see because we saw them coming out as we were walking up. They had already come down from the tower.
We left the park, went to Keyhole. Keyhole is a state park in eastern Wyoming, and pretty nice place. We had a lot. It was very eventful getting a campsite. Huge lake. But that was a nice evening too.
Yes.
So we got that done, and I was able to watch Terry put the tent up on the van by herself. It was a lot of fun. Awesome sunset there. Again, at a really large lake. Some wildlife there, magpies around at the not the feeders, but the campers. Not a whole. I mean, at the other end, we did get a bunch of shorebirds, waterfowl, the other end of the reservoir. But so we got up from Keyhole. Where did we go the next day? We did some shorebirds in the morning
Right.
on that lake. Saw a bunch of avocets. But we went to
Gardner, Montana, Gardner.
Montana. North end of Yellowstone.
And that place is epic. I mean,
like that place.
it's not like West Yellowstone epic or Jackson Hole or any of those epicness. It's just so small and quiet, and the wildlife walking around the town is what made it epic. I mean, right outside our hotel, you can see elk right in the yard. We're bad naturalists, and we were feeding mule deer in the parking lot. But we were feeding them animal crackers, so that was okay because they're animal crackers.
So we had a great time in Gardner. We actually, because it was sleeting when we got there, we actually ended up staying in a hotel, which was actually good. Trying to find a campsite that time at night. It was sleeting and rain, and it was cold. It was going to get below freezing that night. We decided let's just get a hotel. Got up the next day, toured Yellowstone. Had a lot of fun. Actually, the Mammoth Spring was pretty cool because there was a male elk that was, what do you call it?
I think the term is bleeding, but I haven't.
Bleating, which.
But I have to look it up to make sure.
It was
Calling.
vocalizing extremely loud. Got cool video on that. No, it's on the boardwalk. Oh, okay. So from there, on Wednesday of that trip,
We drove through northern part of Yellowstone and headed down toward the Tetons, but on our way down we went to Lewis Lake to reserve a campsite for the night.
which is a good thing because it was, again, it was the first time we've ever camped inside Yellowstone Park. It was great. By 10 a.m. we re-registered. So and it's a first come first serve there. You can't reserve it.
Right.
And that was great that we did because when we came back later, about 3:30 or whatever, we ended up becoming like the host because people kept driving through, and we had to tell them there weren't any left. But that was a cool place. Snow all over the grounds and stuff.
Yeah.
But
That
the
was a nice
Tetons, the
campsite.
Tetons was an incredible day. It was 70 down there, I
Yeah.
think, and the lake, Jackson Lake, just stunning
It's-
beauty.
epic, epic, epic. If you've never been to the Tetons, the grandeur of those mountains on the backside of the lake is just a sight to be seen.
Woke up Thursday morning at Lewis Lake. No problem. I mean, when we got up, we turned on the van and the thermometer said 32, but the forecast was 24. So I don't know how cold it got, but we were perfectly comfortable. We didn't have, there's no electricity. We had no heat. But I would guess it was probably upper 40s inside the van would be my guess. Of course, we didn't have the tent on. You wouldn't want the tent on in that cold. We didn't have the ventilation fan on either. We just had the ventilation cracked to get a little bit of ventilation. But it was still, we were very comfortable. We had 2 old blankets and a comforter.
And a cotton blanket.
And a cotton blanket. Perfectly comfortable, slept like a baby. I shouldn't say that because babies don't sleep very well. So slept very well.
Our baby didn't sleep very well.
Right. She might hear.
She knows.
So then the next morning,
She sleeps fine now.
the only time your husband made coffee was that morning, on a cold morning, and it was a very great coffee because it was so freaking cold.
Yes.
Not because I'm a good cook, because it was so cold.
Yes, I was very grateful because I could stay inside the van and turn on the ignition and warm it up and get dressed while he was making coffee. Nice treat.
So then we got up, got going, I should say, left that campsite maybe by 8.
Yeah.
Headed up to Old Faithful. Had just missed the eruption or whatever they call it, and so we had to wait for an hour and a half or whatever. When we were there 20 years ago, it was every 45 minutes.
Right.
Now it's an hour and a half. I didn't think it got that tall. I mean, I think I like to do some research on this, but I swear the last time I was there, it was like an 80-foot balloon, but it was probably 30 or 40%. I mean, 30 to 40 feet from my perspective.
Well, it was hard to see because it was so cold. When it erupted, you couldn't see the water very well because it was
Chicken
all
over there.
steam. It was just a cloud of steam because it was really cold that morning. So it was kind of hard to actually see the water in the geyser. When you look at the video, it looks uneventful.
Yeah. So from there, got really tired of being around too many people. We like being out away from, and we got people here in the city. We can do that. So,
Right.
well, suburbs. But anyway,
Well, we are in our own
we
little
wanted to
world.
get away. We wanted to get back to nature. So what we decided to do is just slowly work our way back to Ohio. And so we left the park, and the first night we drove to a place called Miles City. It wasn't my choice of a campground.
Hey!
It was someone else's.
We had no choice because I wanted to stop at that little park on the way because it was like, what was that called? Pompey's Monument, National Monument. I like collecting passport stamps of the national parks. It's just kind of my thing. It
Lewis
makes
and
you-
Clark had chiseled his name in there.
Yeah,
Lewis.
Clark. No,
Clark.
Yeah, Clark.
Yeah,
Clark.
the other
William
Lewis.
Clark had chiseled his name in the big rock
1803
formation.
or something like that. 1809, 18
Yeah,
18 something.
18 something. Right.
1800 something.
Well, it was going up there was closed because the rock has become unstable, so they've closed off the platform to get up there to see the actual. You have pictures you get to see of
It's
it
only
now.
like 60 foot tall. It's not
Right.
huge.
But it's kind of cool. It's like
along the Yellowstone River. So I got up in the morning, couldn't get out of there fast enough, drove to
We left
Theodore.
at like 5 in the morning to get out there fast enough.
Went to Theodore Roosevelt Park,
National Park.
the south one,
Right, the South Park.
which is in North Dakota.
Right, they're both in North Dakota, but one's in the Central Time Zone and one's in Mountain Time Zone. So the North is in Central and the South is in Mountain Time
Beautiful
Zone.
park. Drove around most of it. There was one road closed, but we drove around a lot of it. We were going to go to the northern, but we just ran out of time.
Yeah.
Spent too much time there, quite frankly.
We spent a lot of time there because there was a lot of wildlife to see. So we were seeing bison and the feral horses and did we see rams there?
We saw we really talk about prairie dogs. Prairie dogs were at every location out. Well, actually, before we left, Medora.
Yeah, it was
That town, we decided to spend some time in Medora, and actually we sacrificed the northern park in favor of Medora, and Medora was adorable. Awesome
really
town. I would go back there again.
It was
Really
cute.
cool. So here in North Dakota, you see really cool stuff like this wagon. I mean, obviously built like in Montana or North Dakota until you look underneath and you see Defiance, Ohio. Really? We drove this whole way from Ohio to see this in North Dakota.
Yeah, an hour from our house.
Right.
An hour from our house.
What?
In Defiance.
So we kept driving until we got to eastern North Dakota, to a place called Mel Raymond,
Yeah.
Mel Raymond rec area. It's a big dam and a lake, and great campsite, but wasn't supposed to be raining, but it was. It broke
Yeah.
long enough for us to cook
Get a fire going.
Italian sausage over the fire, have a beverage or two, and woke up in the morning. We actually got to shower.
Yay, they had showers.
Yeah, that was nice. Got up in the morning, and our intention was to go to the UP to camp for our last night, but we saw the forecast. We saw the rain. That literally all of northern Wisconsin and all the UP of Michigan was under a rain deluge. So that wouldn't have made any sense.
And
to go-
cold.
Yeah, it was chilly. That made no sense to just go rough it. So we decided to turn the last 36 hours of our trip into a wine hunting experience. And so her favorite wine, Squeeze SQZ wine, not available where we live. So we went on a hunting trip. Our goal was to get somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to 50 cases. We ended up getting 17 cases. We visited 5 places. We scored on 2 of those. So we're diverting our trip to be just hoarding Squeeze wine. So my wife's on a campaign to get up to 50 cases.
Because it costs so much to ship. So if we can get it locally, I can buy more wine with the shipping.
So we're just east of Minneapolis. Here we go. Hoarding wine.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, I'll go get the van. Obviously, this is the right place. Going into. How much we got here? It was fun.
But it was fun. We had a good time trying to find.
That was a 17
squeeze.
hours that day, mostly driving. We ended up getting home a day early, which actually woke up the next morning and exhausted. So
Yeah, getting home at 2 in the morning is not fun. But after trying to find a campsite and we were so close to home, we just said, let's bag it and come home.